Okay, so as Dom just said, the title of my talk today is "What advice would you give to a younger version of yourself?" Very quickly about me, I'm Pedro Lopez. As Dom just said, I'm an engineering manager, and I really like to travel, so I like it so much that I ended up working at Skyscanner. But today, I'm not here to tell you about Skyscanner, what a wonderful place it is. I'm here to tell you about career growth. Everything I'm going to say today is also available as a blog post in retrolog.io, which is my blog site. So feel free to check it out if you liked it, or if you want to know more about all the things that I occasionally write about. Okay, so let's start. Because I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer today, here's the typical disclaimer slide. Not that I'm going to say anything controversial, but you know. Cool, so let me start explaining where all this comes from. A few weeks ago, as part of my regular one-to-ones with the team, I decided to ask them the question, what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself, trying to get to where you are today in half the time? Now, this is typically a question that I would ask a mentor of mine, not that my mentor or my manager would ask me, because I want to learn from their experience, right, typically. However, I decided to try this question as a self-reflecting question for a change. The results were pretty amazing, as you're gonna see in a second. But these are not to be blindly followed, but rather I hope most of these, if not all, will resonate with you and you will take them as food for thought. And ultimately, I think this exercise is not something most of us would normally do on our own. So I gave it a go for you with my team. So I hope you like it. Okay, let's dive in. The first one is ask, and then ask a bit more. Asking is the fastest way to learn new things, especially when you find yourself in a new environment or working on a new domain. Having the conversation has the additional benefit of bringing people together. A human interaction is sometimes underestimated. Reading something on a wiki is efficient, but having a chat is insightful and opens the possibility of a deeper conversation about the subject. In an environment with the right culture, I've never really seen or I've never really heard something like John asks too much. So generally speaking, don't be afraid to ask. But if you feel that you can't ask freely, then ask yourself, is this the right environment for me? Sometimes it makes sense to try for yourself first, of course, but there is no need to bang your head against the wall for too long if you're not making enough progress, particularly if a quick hint from someone else can go a long way. Okay, so that is the first one. Second one, get a mentor and become one. Getting a mentor early on in your career is hugely beneficial. I cannot stress this one enough. Yet most junior professionals wait for a few years before even considering formal mentorship as an option. In fact, having more than one mentor for different things is also an option. Think of a mentor dedicated to career growth, another one to soft skills, and a third one for technical competencies, for example. So this can definitely boost your progress. Don't be afraid of wasting people's time. Mentoring is a two-way street, and mentors get as much from the relationship as you do, which is why you should also consider becoming a mentor yourself as soon as you're reasonably comfortable with the idea. Feedback. I seek feedback like there is no tomorrow. Biases are real and they are everywhere. Some examples, typical examples of biases are overconfidence bias, self-serving bias, which is when you think that good things are due to your own skill and bad things are due to the environment, someone else's fault, or confirmation bias, which is when you only seek out information that confirms pre-existing ideas that you already have. A simple step towards overcoming biases is to increase awareness, and nothing like good old constructive feedback to open your eyes. Asking for feedback regularly is one of the most common traits of high-performing individuals, and it shows an invested interest in self-development. You want to understand how your actions and behaviors are perceived by others so that you can improve. All right. The fourth one is don't get too comfortable. This is the typical get out of your comfort zone, but what does that really mean? If you know basically everything that there is to know about something, it's time to start expanding your horizons, as you would imagine. You can start by teaching others what you know, for instance, and maybe that way free up some time and create some space for you to do something else. Seek for opportunities that are aligned with your career goals, and ask for help finding opportunities if you get stuck. A reasonable amount of discomfort with your tasks is good because it keeps you on your toes and it pushes you to think outside of the box. There are probably opportunities around you at the reach of the hand, like joining a project that uses a technology that you've never used before, assuming a different set of responsibilities within your team, or swap teams to get exposure to an unfamiliar area of your business. Ultimately, if you feel too comfortable for too long and there are no opportunities that catch your eye in your environment, it's probably time to start considering changing jobs. And that is actually okay. Be curious. Learn beyond what's in your hands at a given moment, and read what's new in your industry and expand your knowledge by proactively seeking opportunities like hackathons, meetups like this one, and conferences. And don't take anything for granted and always keep an eye on future trends. But at the same time, stay focused. Looking outwards helps to find new opportunities, generate a healthy discomfort, and expand our knowledge. However, it's also crucial to stay in the moment and balance out that explorer mindset I was talking about earlier with laser focus. Once you've identified an opportunity or an area of interest, you'll need to invest enough time to really get the grasp of it and understand it inside out, to the point that you could teach it to others. Maybe that's a good benchmark usually. Setting an interrupted time aside to get in the flow, working on something, is the best way to make the most of your efforts and really master that one thing before moving on to something else. Okay, we're number 7. Changing careers slows you down, but it may be worth it. At some point, most of us face a dilemma, and that is whether we should stay in the track that we're in or we should change. And a classical example is IC versus management. IC is a term for individual contributors, like pure software engineering, versus management, as I said, but by no means it's the only one. Think backend versus frontend, integration versus data engineering, or machine learning versus distributed systems, or even just changing sectors like healthcare and travel, like it was in my case. The good news is that usually these decisions are reversible, and a career change will teach you loads regardless, so it won't necessarily be wasted time if things don't work out. However, be aware that every time you change paths significantly, it will take some time to go over the learning curve and master your new skill set. So you want to give it a serious thought before making a career move like this. Definitely consider your context and your personal circumstances. Don't be just reckless if you cannot afford it. But remember that change is not bad per se. It's just scary, and it may be worth it. Pay attention to impact at scale. A very common motivator between software engineers is to be able to work on things that make an impact. It's very rewarding knowing that your contributions made the life of others a bit better, or more interesting, or simply more fun. Therefore, when choosing your opportunities, it's generally a good idea to consider the impact and the scale of the problem that you are trying to solve. Please note that this doesn't mean that you should disregard any work that is not high impact and high scale. It just means that you should be mindful. On a daily basis, there are things that you can do too, even if your feature or your task has a relatively low impact at first glance. You can share learnings with a wider audience. You can think about what it would take to expand beyond the current scope and maybe make a proposal. You can tweak aspects of it so that it can scale virtually indefinitely if needs be. In any case, the definition of impact in the context of a career conversation is not always obvious. It means different things to different people. So it's also something to keep in mind. This one is very interesting. Work towards your next job. An interesting way to keep you on the right path is to think about your future on a regular basis and make investments on things that are aligned with your midterm to long-term goals. For example, even though at Skyscanner, this is more like a hat that you wear, let's say that you're looking to become an architect one day. Then, sign up for opportunities that will allow you to work on architectural designs. Stay closer to senior architects within your organization and learn from them. Stay informed about the latest developments in the field and bring those learnings with you so that they become part of your current job as much as possible. Politics are part of the job. Some places are more political than others, but in all companies, it's possible to promote yourself and your cause without compromising your values or those of your organization by playing the office politics correctly and positively as well. So this is not or shouldn't be about backstabbing. It's about understanding the organigram and the informal networks and building connections and basically developing people skills. By leveraging your circle of influence, you can increase your impact and promote win-win situations. And the last one, the bad, the good, and the ugly, all of it is worth it. It is important to learn from the bad things as much as the good things. Nothing tells as much about ourselves as how we reacted to adversity. Using misses as learning opportunities is also hugely beneficial because it gives us the opportunity to have somewhat awkward and difficult conversations that can push us forward when done correctly. So, if you're not having conversations about misses, you should definitely start doing that tomorrow. There are also lessons to be learned from the tedious work that we must do from time to time. That is the ugly work, even if it is just to automate it for next time it comes our way. This is the summary of everything that I just said. So if you want to take a screenshot, this is the slide. Nothing fancy, just an empty, simple slide with everything I just said. I want to finish with this quote: "The future depends on what you do today." So just as you would give hopefully some of this advice to your younger self, don't wait any longer. Don't wait until your future self has to tell you, this is what you should have done to boost your career growth. Think about your future today and go for it. Thank you very much for listening. Also, huge thanks to my team that helped me put this together. If there is time for questions now, if you have any, feel free to ask. Otherwise, you can pick me on Twitter later on. You have the Twitter handle right there on that slide. Thank you.